Hello everyone. This video is got a few different aspects to it. It's a continuation of 001 step 1. So if you haven't watched that yet, I'd suggest watching that first before doing this, so this makes a bit more sense. So today we're going to look at a couple of different things, and it's an extension of the anxiety and depression. These things contribute to them that I'm going to talk about today. So we're wanting to break patterns. We're wanting to be able to say no to people when we mean no. We're wanting to have awareness of our patterns with lovingly, not, oh God, I do this, We also want to understand other people's patterns around us. And by doing that, we can then choose how we're going to respond rather than react. Okay, so often when we're in depression or anxiety, we're very reactive. Okay, and it's normally pretty impulsive, hence the word reactive. So some of these teachings are going to help you be more aware, slow down, have understanding, awareness, take the time to look at things, and then work out if you want to respond or not. Yeah? So the first thing we want to look at today when it comes to relationships, friendships, work colleagues, workplace, like this topic can really be included in anything. And this is your value system. Okay, what is your value system? What are your top 5 values? And, I would suggest maybe Googling values and really, really taking the time to look at them, what the values actually mean, and picking your top 5 values. The reason this suggestion is so important is you can look at your current friendships, relationships, colleagues, boss, workplace, family, and work out whether these relationships have those 5 values or not. And then obviously double check, are you living by your top 5 values? And if you're not, what changes do you need to make so you can live by your own values? Because there's no point having values for others if you're not doing them yourselves. And then as you meet new people, you can check in. Do they hold the top 5 values? Do I actually want to participate in growing a friendship with this person? And I'll give you an example. I had a friend for many years, and one of my positive traits is also a negative trait in some ways, is I'm a bit too loyal. And what I mean by that is I was friends with people over a period of years, and I started changing and growing, and a few events in life happened, and I was starting to notice some things about this friend that I hadn't noticed before. It started to become a repetitive pattern and obvious to me. I was starting to notice that she was gossiping and bitching about other friends that were coming round to visit her. And because I'm a very loyal person, a very caring person, and I try not to judge, I wasn't realising that if she does this about other people, like, Blow Joe just left and I've rocked up and she's telling me all about Blow Joe. And then I had to start to face the fact, well, if she's doing this about others, she'd be doing it to me. Do you see what I mean by I was too loyal, so I wasn't seeing it. And as I was changing and growing and looking at my value system, my top 5 values, and I was starting to be a bit more aware, choosing to be more aware about the people around me, I started to really notice, I was starting to listen more and talk less. And I started to notice, hang on, every single friend that she's got, she bitches about, and I know their private business. That means she's doing it about me. Do I want that in my life? You know? And another pattern that can also be a problem is because we feel loyal, and many of us have been conditioned in our childhood or our families to, you know, be there through thick and thin, do this, do that, you know. It's like, or if we've been through a certain amount of trauma, we won't want to end a friendship that's not good for us. So using the example of this friend that bitches about everyone, so must be bitching about me, because they haven't outrightly been abusive. So we don't we think, oh, I can't do that because she hasn't done anything wrong, you know. It's not outward obvious abuse. So sometimes we keep people around us that are abusive in a sense, but because it's not like what we've experienced in the past, which was very obvious abuse, mental, emotional, psychological, sexual, whatever abuse, we can just let the littler things that we think are little go by the wayside. So this is where I got this idea from another inspirational person who said, start treating life like a game, like literally, and that you are an avatar, right? And your avatar is this meat suit, and your avatar is also, you know, all the thoughts and behaviours and, you know, good, bad, and indifferent. And you're observing that avatar. What do you want that avatar to do today? And you have to look after the avatar, which is you, really. Do you want that avatar interacting with someone that bitches about everybody else? What do I want to create in my game? Do these people help me progress in my game? What goals do I want in my game of life? It's another way to look at it. Another way is, you know, as things arise, as soon as you're aware something's arisen with a person, you know, check your value system. Do they meet that? See yourself as a parent to the inner child that's having the experience. What would you tell your child if they were going through what you were going through? And often the advice we would give our child is very different to what we give to ourselves. So if you can sort of stand back, see yourself as a child, what would you say to the child self? Would you say to the child self, oh, you've been in this friendship for a long time, it doesn't matter that she bitches, for example's sake? This is just a small example, obviously. And when you start using these type of skills, you'll notice, actually, I wouldn't suggest that to my child. And this doesn't matter whether you've had a child or not. We've all got an inner child, yeah? You know, would I suggest this to my child? What advice would I give my child? What advice would I give my friend? You know, and, you know, we're so programmed to please everyone, and you can't upset anyone, and you can't, you know, if you break up a friendship, you've lost them, and you're lonely, and, you know, everything has a season. You know, if you look at every relationship, every friendship, every job, everything in your life really has a season, and eventually the season changes. And we've been very programmed through, you know, as down as little kids, you know, happily ever after, you know. There's so many programs about forever, everything's for, you know, forever, marriage is forever, you know, all these programs. And this is why we suffer extra in certain aspects of our life, because of the programming. So, one, practice, check out what your value system is. Check out if you're living by your own top 5 value system. Observe who's in your life, whether they're living with your value system. Do you want them in your life? Are they got, you know, similar values? And this isn't about judging anyone as good or bad, but it's about who you've got in your life, and is it a good match? Is it a similar vibration? Are they dragging you down or encouraging you and lifting you up? You know, and we also want to, you know, as we're looking at those value systems, we also want to look at and be aware and take some time to write down about our value system, our expectations that we have of people, expectations that we have of ourselves. Are they realistic? Are they fair? Are they compassionate? You know, and also play with the idea about this avatar thing. Really give it a go. Look at your life, step back. Where do you want your avatar to go next? What do you want to experience next? Start making active choices to improve your quality of life. It's in the non-choices and the turning a blind eye to things that are going on that create the extra suffering. So we want to break patterns that we've had for a very long time, that we didn't know any better about. But once you know, you know, you know. I want to share with you a circumstance I had many years ago that's very difficult and complex. But it's also a bit of a teaching of how to step out of suffering. So in my mid-20s, I started, not long after having my daughter, I started having flashbacks to an event that happened in my childhood. And I was semi-aware of it, but didn't have details or many memories. And I finally saw the face of the person that assaulted me as a child sexually, and obviously told some family members, mainly because I wanted people to stop taking their children to his house. He was an uncle. And long story short, a percentage of my family just disowned me right then and there. One of them was my nana, so that broke my heart. Anyway, a few years later, he died of cancer. And my immediate family, so mum, dad, brothers, sisters, nana, went to his funeral. And I was just beside myself. I could not understand in a million years how you could go to someone's funeral when you know what they did to your daughter or your sister, or, you know what I'm saying, right? I'd never felt so alone, so betrayed, so angry. And I struggled with this for quite some time. I really suffered. Anyway, I ended up going to a counsellor who helped adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And she was amazing. she said, I really want you to try and step back. We make things so personal, understandably so. But she said, I want you to stand back and try not to make it personal for a minute. I want you to look at your mother for a moment and then look at your nana for a moment. What was their relationship like? What were their behavioural patterns like? And, tell me a bit about their pasts and things they've done. And my mum was very codependent on her mother, and there were lots of family secrets. And there was also, my mum had been sexually assaulted at some stage, and nothing was obviously done about it. So she said, I want you to step back and look at what they couldn't even do for themselves. They couldn't stand up for themselves when they were going through it. They covered it up for whatever reason. And it scared them. My mum didn't want to lose her mother and didn't want to lose her sister. And it was her sister's husband that did what he did. And she thought by standing by me and saying no, she was going to lose them. And then I said to the counsellor, but so that means I don't matter and I don't, she didn't care about me. And the counsellor said, no, her fears were bigger than being able to stand next to you. It's not right, obviously, and I can't imagine if that happened to my daughter in a million years, would have I gone to the funeral. But I've, from when I was a little tacker, I was pretty feisty about right and wrong and, the treatment of elderly people. And, I was a very caring, sensitive soul. And, I'm sharing this because if you've got issues in your family or where you don't feel loved or supported or whatever, it's really important to remember that, yes, they're our parents. We have this expectation that they're meant to be perfect, and we have an idea of what a parent should be. And when I really stepped back and looked at my mum, my father, my sister, my brother, and looked at all the family dynamics and dysfunction, like my mum was an alcoholic, high-functioning alcoholic, they've got their own demons just like we do. And, we got a certain amount of trauma and family stuff handed down. Well, they did to them too. So it's not excusing and thinking what they did or didn't do was okay. It's about to be able to let go of that pain and that suffering I was going through. I really had to stop and look at who my mum was, who my dad was, their childhoods, their programming of what they were, taught they weren't allowed to be and do, and families, everything, and you don't, make this and you don't tell anyone this, and, you bring shame on the family and blah, 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 So whatever your circumstances are with your family, and, it doesn't mean you go back for another serve from your family. You might have decided that it's unhealthy to be around your family and, trying to resolve things is more in your detriment to, but it's also about this exercise that I'm describing to you that I went through and how I stepped back to look at it gave me a bit of a different perspective, and it also gave me some compassion. My mum and dad and sister and brother, whatever, didn't feel strong enough to say, no, we're not going. We're going to stand by Pamela. Because to them, the consequences, what they perceived as consequences, of not going was going to be a greater loss. Does that make sense? Doesn't make it okay, obviously. But so you can break some of your own patterns and let go of some of your own circumstances, wounds. Try and apply the things that I've shared to your circumstances, you know? And this is how we start to grow, change, create boundaries. Might be worth Googling not only, you know, value systems and working out what your top 5 are, but also Googling how to set boundaries, different ways to say no to people, you know. And, you know, back to the Avatar life as a game thing, really try and apply that, you know. So we make things less personal. People aren't doing it deliberately to you unless it's outright abuse, right? We've all got wounds. A lot of us aren't aware of our patterns. A lot of us aren't. We know we've got certain wounds, but we're not aware that we have behaviours because of those wounds. So the more self-aware you become, the more you live by a value system, the more you pull back and have a higher awareness, you're going to make different choices. You're going to break patterns. You're going to go within more lovingly. And you're going to notice that your life is going to start changing because you're making different choices. And that might mean letting go of some people. In the last couple of years, I've let go of a lot of people. I've also, as I grew and changed and started to become more self-aware of my own shit that was creating drama for myself, and I started making different choices, some of the people I know started to become really reactive because they weren't understanding, because they didn't have much self-awareness. Not that I'm better than them, right? But they didn't have much self-awareness. They struggled with the changes in me because I was responding differently. I was saying no more often, or I was saying I can't today, maybe next week. And people become really reactive because it's like, normally I'd be like, yes, 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 you know. So then, you know, I had some people really turn on me because the dance had changed, okay? So, you know, I was sometimes a bit too much a peacekeeper or a people pleaser. Also have a big heart, so sometimes I would put others first before myself, and sometimes at my own detriment, you know. So let's say a lot of my friendships, it was like doing the cha-cha. It was a real fast-moving friendship, you know. I'm helping, I'm doing, da-da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to do the waltz and be a bit more aware and change some patterns and observe more. But my friend's still doing the cha-cha, you know. And so, yeah, lost some friendships. And that was really hard at first because I am a very loyal person. And it's really funny because I feel I'm a good communicator. And in my friendships and my relationships, you know, I speak up lovingly, pretty direct. And I had the perception or belief that if I explain to people really clearly what I do and don't want in a friendship or a relationship, and and they're like, yeah, that's actually going to be on it. And then if things went wrong, I'd think, oh, well, if I just explain it again, you know. Yeah, I was a bit naive. And so I started having to learn actions speak louder than words. Don't just listen to people say, yeah, I'll do this, and you know what I mean? watch their actions. Do their actions match their words? And this was quite confronting for me. I really started to, when I was visiting people, I was really starting to speak less and listen more and watch and observe. And this is when I started realizing, wow, I don't like the patterns in this person. And when they do that, it triggers this in me. Is that my shit, their shit, Although anytime you are triggered, it's normally not about the current circumstances, unless it's outright abuse, okay? So the current circumstances, something happens, you get triggered by something someone says, and you're having this internal explosion. Often, it's not actually to do with the current circumstances. It's reminded you of something which has triggered an old wound, in most cases. So that's where you'd want to, later on reflect. What is it? What does this remind me of? When has this happened before? Is this fair, unfair? Is it expecting too much? Really slow down, observe, take notes. When I first did my value system, I'd put my top 5 values up on the wall in my bedroom. I started actively participating in my game of life, right? If I want to create a different life and I want more quality friendships, relationships around me, then I need to be living by that higher quality as well, and having that visual prompt up on the wall was a good reminder regularly, Yeah. So what else have I talked about? I think that's all for step 2. So I'd recommend watching step 1 again. I'd recommend watching this again, taking some notes and applying give it a go, apply some of these things. You won't see changes dramatically in the first few weeks, but as you keep applying them, you're going to start to see changes. Yeah? Okay, so the next video is going to, I'll probably do some one-on-one type skills with you guys, yeah? Like teach some actual skills and maybe less of a talk, yeah? Well, I hope you found today helpful, and please like, share and subscribe. Keep the algorithm going so other people can possibly get a benefit from these videos. And I thank you for your time today. Please leave a comment. Thanks.